Welcome back to 360 Recaps. Today we will recap Season 1 Episode 1 of Only Murders in the Building. A building is being raided by the New York Police Department. Meanwhile, we see two gentlemen run down the stairs looking for their female companion. They come upon her as she hovers over a dead body and covered in blood. She proclaims, "It's not what you think." Flashback to 2 months earlier. Charles, Oliver, and Mabel are three lonely people living in the Arconia, an iconic building in the city of New York. Charles is a has-been actor who had a successful show 20 years ago, but can no longer find work. Oliver is a struggling Broadway producer. And Mabel is a young lady renovating her aunt's condo who regularly fears she will be attacked. One day while waiting for the elevator, the three get on at the same time, but seem rather annoyed by each other. A fourth gentleman gets on the elevator and seems rather upset. He carries a trash bag and is complaining about a misdelivered package. Each person gets off the elevator and goes their separate ways. We discover that Charles, Oliver, and Mabel are all fans of the same true crime podcast. Their lives are upended when they are suddenly rushed out of their building due to an emergency evacuation due to a police investigation. During Charles's descent, he notices a lone figure going up the stairs instead of down, but cannot follow as everyone is supposed to be evacuating the building. While waiting for the police to finish their search, Charles, Oliver, and Mabel find themselves waiting in the same restaurant and discover that they all listen to the same true crime podcast. When they learn that there was a murder in the building, the three decide to investigate. They sneak into the building, past the police, and make it to the 9th floor only to discover the man from the elevator with the trash bag is dead with a bullet wound to the head. Stunned, they quickly run away, but are confronted by a police officer in the hallway. She tells them that it is a potential suicide and asks if any of them knew the deceased personally. But when Charles starts discussing police procedures, the officer realizes that they listen to lots of true crime podcasts and becomes annoyed, cursing them under her breath. They each go home and we see Charles alone in his apartment preparing an omelet that he simply throws into the trash can without eating. After straightening the trash bag on the can, he seems to have a realization. We then see Charles on the elevator still in his robe. He is in a hurry and tries to press the door close button, but it is actually Mabel who is waiting to get on. They simultaneously exclaim that the trash bag that he was carrying was a clue because there is a trash chute on every floor and that there was no need for him to have taken it on the elevator. The elevator then stops one more time to reveal that Oliver has had the same realization. As the three dig through the garbage, Oliver suggests that they start a true crime podcast about the murder, and the two rehearse lines. But while the two try to get sound bites, Mabel finds what look like suicide notes. After reading what sounds like writings of grief, they come to believe that he truly committed suicide. Later on, we see Charles on the phone with his agent while cooking an omelet. He once again throws the omelet away without eating it. We then see Mabel listening to her neighbor, a woman named Bunny, having a conversation through the vent while she does her makeup. She has a realization. She goes to find Charles and sees him in the elevator. She remembered that the victim, Tim, complained about how an important package that belonged to him was misdelivered to Bunny, the chairman of the board. Charles exclaims that the same thing happens to him all the time. The pair decide to enter Bunny's apartment to find out what was inside the package. Meanwhile, Oliver visits his son in New Jersey to deliver gifts for his grandchildren. But in reality, he is there to ask for money because he's broke. His son refuses because he's asked too many times and refuses to sell his apartment. At the Arconia, Charles and Mabel make their way to Bunny's apartment. He picks the lock with tools he received while on his detective show, Brazos. He reveals he's been living in the Arconia by himself for 28 years. Mabel then reveals that when she was a teen she had 3 other friends and that they called themselves the Hardy Boys, but that they no longer speak to each other. The two go inside the apartment and find the package. They take it on the roof of the building to open it only to discover that the victim, Tim, was waiting for what looks like an engagement ring. Mabel and Charles text Oliver that they have new information and it gives him and the others a renewed sense of hope that they will be able to solve this murder. The three get together to record the first episode of their true crime podcast. When Oliver suggests they cover other murders and create another podcast, Charles said that they should cover only murders in the building, which they then decide to call their podcast. While returning to his apartment, one of Charles's neighbors tells him he can sometimes smell the omelets that he makes. Charles tells him that he can turn the fan on the next time he cooks, but his neighbor tells him not to, because it reminds him of Lucy. His neighbor recalls that it was her favorite meal. Charles smiles and then walks back into his apartment alone. We then cut away to Oliver, who is looking at a computer screen of past due bills. And finally we see Mabel, who is taking a shower. The camera pans around her aunt's apartment, and finally to her computer. And on her desktop is her and her group of friends, the Hardy Boys, of whom Tim, the murder victim, is a member. Do you enjoy true crime? Play an interactive true crime-inspired murder mystery game where you get to search the victim's room by clicking on items and watching scenes of her life. Based on a true story, solve the murder of this young woman.
Where am I? What happened? Who did this to me?
Just click on the link in the description to play this free game. Subscribe for more videos, click the notification bell to be notified when new episodes are recapped, and as always, stay sleuthy.